welcome back again. We're talking again in the H topic, husband and wife, with me, Sinta Nordcat, and
I would be Alan so far.
so far, you always be Alan, and Alan always be Alan,
Good for some,
Well,
worse for others. But yeah, sure.
okay, I take it.
Okay.
So, today we're gonna talk about something that a lot of us don't really plan for, but somehow we end up living with. For me, I don't think I'm living with that, but a lot of young generation live with that.
Okay.
Because right now it's happening in Indonesia, it's probably happening there about sandwich generation. Do you know that one?
Laugh a little, heal a little, too spicy blue TV. Made for you, cry a little, rise a little, new spicy blue TV. Made for you. Hey, hey.
I'm sorry, sandwich generation. No, I don't think I know what that is.
You don't know the sandwich generation?
Does it involve no home cooking?
So, sandwich generation is, the sandwich, right? It will be bread, meat, and the bread. Something like that.
And here it will be pork, and there it won't be?
Really less
ahead.
pork in Indonesia, I understand,
Sorry.
okay?
Sorry, go ahead.
And then the sandwich generation, that's mean we are in the middle, and then we need to support like the parents and support our own life, our kids and everything. So we need to pay the rents and think about the kids. But in another side, we feel like, okay, I owe something to the parents. I need to help, something like that. There's a lot of happening in Indonesia right now, like
Okay.
sandwich generation. That's why I want to ask you: is that common also in US?
Yes and no. That's one thing I
Okay.
do enjoy about the Asian culture is the older generation or generations now are still included in everyday life. I've been to some farm tours in Taiwan, and you
Okay.
go to a farmhouse, and it would be maybe 4 levels high on the house, 4 stories. Got it? And what would happen is the bottom floor is the living floor, and
Okay.
there might be a bedroom there. The second floor, third floor, and the fourth floor, they're for complete different generations. So the youngest generations lived on the top floor. Their parents lived on the third floor. Their grandparents lived, on the second floor because it was easier to get up and down the stairs. And it wasn't rare. That was the way the 3 or 4 places
lived.
that I went, they all were. And I know your situation is similar to that. The oldest child typically falls into the role of caring for the parents or caring for their parents, regardless of the number of siblings. In Taiwan, in the Chinese world, it's typically the male who is the oldest of the children. You would be skipped if you had a brother who was 2 years younger than you. Big time difference here. Multi-generational housing is not really a U.S. thing in general. My mother is obviously close to 30 years older than me. She's living by herself on the farm with a dog. I've asked her, do you want to move to town? No, I've been here since I was 21 years old. Well, do you want to go to an apartment that wouldn't have, maybe we would call it independent living? So, it's not assisted living, but if you need a light bulb changed or you got trouble with your garage door, there are people in the facility to do that. And it's more or less just apartment living or duplex style living. But no, she really wasn't interested in that. So in the U.S., due to the cost of medical care, at some point it becomes cheaper, and it's not cheap by any means, for parents, grandparents, what have you, to go into what we call nursing homes, elder care facilities. The whole Better Call Saul target audience, if you get my reference there.
I remember that. Right.
But, in this day and age, a regular nursing home in a small rural area can be $85,000 or $90,000 a year. And
Wow,
if you
that's
don't
a lot of
plan,
money.
yeah, a lot. And if you
A
don't
lot of
plan
money.
for it ahead of time, they'll drain your bank account. Or not yours, but, the individual. Like if I have to go to a nursing home and I don't plan ahead of time, I'm not really, really up to speed on this. You can have a house and assets worth maybe $100,000, $120,000. You can have a prepaid burial, so you pay the funeral home ahead of time, and you can have X amount of dollars in the bank. Maybe $2,000 in the bank. The problem is if I have a house, if I rent it out and get income, that goes straight to the nursing facility. If
Ooh, okay.
Due to insurance, you can't really have a house that stays empty, but you're still going to pay insurance and tax on the house. So where's the income for paying the the real estate tax and the homeowner's insurance if you don't have any income? If you get your government money, retirement, Social Security, they have access to all of that. So
They have access to all of that?
yeah,
Wow.
and like I say, I've not dealt with this in a lot of years. My maternal grandmother had to go into a nursing home, and you can't just say, "Okay, Dad, I'm going to transfer all your money into my name, and I'll put you in a nursing home tomorrow." I think you have to do it maybe 60 months ahead of time for it not to be accessible by the nursing home.
Ooh, okay.
Um,
That's a lot of
yeah.
step for protect.
Yeah, I mean, you have to think, the parents need to do it in their 30s or 40s, and, that's the specific age when they don't want to start giving money to kids because they're afraid they won't be responsible with it. So I know one example that's current in this area. The mom and dad really both needed to be in the nursing home. So that was going to be, let's just make it easy. Let's say that was going to be $150,000 a year. He was able to afford for less money than that care to come in-home care. So they could go to the house of the mom and dad, pay them, take care of them, cook and clean and all that. Well, one of the parents passed away, and, the money for what it cost to get the home health care, it didn't go down because it was still the same person doing the same thing. It didn't matter that there was one as opposed to two. Yeah. And so now he's having to consider, oh my gosh, it would actually be less expensive for me to put my remaining parent in a nursing facility. And no parent wants to do that because they lose their freedom. The one thing that you have, even as you lose your mobility, it's like
You still want some freedom.
Yeah, it's like
You
living
still
in a
wanna-
dorm
of
room.
course, right,
I've worked my
right.
whole life, and now I'm going to have to live in a dorm room. I mean,
I
and there's
got
a lot
you.
of, yeah. So yeah, that's the difference here. And but we go to college, we graduate college, we move out. I mean, I moved from my college into a rental house. I'd never went back to the farm where I grew up. I mean, I went from an apartment in Fayetteville to a house in Carlisle, and then I eventually bought that house a few months later.
Okay, so in as what you call the parenting in US, it's like when you adult, you out from the house, and it will be your own responsibility about your life.
Yeah.
Okay, so what the age usually the kids need to be out from the house?
I don't know if there's an age. I think a lot of times if kids go to college, then
Okay.
they're gone 3.5 to 5 years, or more. They don't typically come back for a long period of time. The people that go in the military after high school, they go in the military and they're 18, so they're going to be at least 22 if they do one enlistment. They're probably not going to come home either. Or maybe they'll do 2 or 3, or maybe they'll, stay there and retire. We don't have that multi-generational unit. Now, the situation here is I've got 3 sets of kids who are 30 minutes to an hour away, and maybe every 2 or 3 weekends, we're going to get together. I mean, at least, one of them and their spouse and
All
me,
right.
and we may go somewhere, or we may all show up at the farm at my mother's house. So it's not like you cut ties with them completely, but you don't live with them.
You don't live with them, and you don't support them like every month or help, something like that, right?
That's
Okay.
kind of a gray area, but the goal would not to
Great.
have to. Yes.
have that one. Okay, okay,
Yeah.
okay. Because I just share something. I bring that here because I wanna, what do you call that one? It's just share what happened here, and that's also like colorful culture, maybe I can say that. Because honestly, in my own family, even though right now I live with my parents here, but they don't ask for, hey, monthly money here sent to me. And my mother, they still have like the what your retirement money per month from the
Well,
government, something like that.
wait. You don't really live with them. They live with you in your case. No, I'm serious. I mean,
Yeah, that's correct.
they live with you because you've already moved into the, not necessarily caregiver, but you're moving toward that.
Yeah, they live with me. I mean, okay. Uh, well, I don't really, you're right. This house is belong to me, but they live with me or I live with them. That's okay, okay. But I don't really give them like the money. But honestly, a lot of parents in Indonesia they ask for that.
Right.
Ask for that. Even a second. Uh, I cannot say who is who. Okay, a father. He's a father, and I talked to me one time. Oh yeah, I want my child to be this one, so someday he could take care of me, something like that. And he say that clearly. I kind of like, really? I mean, you expect something like that? I mean, take care. When he said take care is, it's like right now I take care of my son, my children, and then like give the food every month, something like that. And well, honestly, when I heard he said that, I feel like I disagree, but I keep silent because everybody has their own business, maybe,
Right.
but I just feel like it's not right for me when
Well,
I heard that.
in the U.S., and it's probably regionally different. I mean,
Okay.
if I were a city dweller in New York, L.A., something like that, where apartment living is the norm, it might be different. I don't know. But I think also where it would show up here different is in cultures. I mean, when you go to the Denver, Colorado area and you go to Aurora, you've got little pockets of Asian cultures. Hawaii, even though it's a state, they have multi-generational housing there. That's really the first.
Also have in Hawaii like multi-generation house. Okay.
But you've got a lot of Pacific Islanders and Asian background people. So, a lot of times you bring your norms with you, right? So, yeah, but I've never been around people outside of Hawaii with a multi-generational house that is more than one parent living with children. It's usually not mom and dad. My mom and dad don't live with us, but maybe, okay, my dad lives with us after my mom passed away or something like that.
Okay. So if that's happened, if that's happened to us or to everybody, I just want to know your idea. Do you have some boundary? What kind of boundary that you will play in that kind of situation?
Well, that's going to be what makes it difficult. And quite honestly, it's probably more difficult than when you get married and live together, because you and I get married and live together, we don't really have any preconceived notion of how the hierarchy of the household works. But picture you and I moving to the farm and living in my mother's house and kicking her out of the master bedroom, and, we take over the house. Now, we've already got a dynamic that, she's the matriarch of the family, so somebody's got to be in charge. Somebody's got to pay the bills. Somebody's, got to do everything. And I think it would be more difficult with parent and child than it would be with spouse. I mean, if Hisham graduates from college and moves in with us for 6 months before he goes to a new job or grad school, it doesn't matter. He's still going to be under the same expectation that, oh, I'm under my mom's roof. Now, Jasmine, on the other hand,
In the other hand, okay.
yeah. I've got a friend who had an older sister. She went to college. I believe she got a master's degree. So she was gone maybe 5.5 or 6 years. She comes home. She's awaiting a job, and she's living in the house where they grew up. Well, she rearranged items in the kitchen cabinets, and the mother just did not
Freak out.
appreciate that at all. And, the daughter, she's probably, 24 by this time. And she's like, well, it just makes more sense like this. And the mother says, not up to you. My house, my rules. So that's what I mean when I'm talking about the changing an existing dynamic seems like it would be more difficult.
All right. So what? I mean, if that happen, it's always, yeah, I think always be sit down and discuss more than, more than, there's a lot of things that we need to consider.
Right, and that
right.
could work in a lot of cases, but I mean, like the old Brady Bunch TV show, or what is it? Leave It to Beaver. I come from a household that if you ignore it, it goes away. We didn't really talk about every little thing. If it's outside the house, my dad handled it. If it's inside the house, my mother handled it, and it wasn't really my job to handle anything except cleaning up the dishes and taking out the trash. And
okay,
yeah. When I was a kid, I wasn't picking up dishes and washing dishes and taking out trash. I didn't do that. But after I got out of college, I guess when I got old enough to go, let's say I got old enough to start dating, I think that's when I started doing that sort of thing.
You start to get responsibility about yourself. You do
but I mean,
okay.
I'm an only child. So, I mean, my experience is probably not typical. And I mean, I grew up in the Deep South. I mean, you know a little bit about the different regions in the U.S. And, so, it could be different. And, my middle child fusses at me all the time. He says, oh, you're just a princess and you were raised that way. Well, I don't see it like that, but he does. He was one of 3 boys. Of course he sees a difference, And he was, obviously he was raised with, his mother and her parents. And I mean, they were a lot more progressive, a little bit more modern than, than we were.
All right. So sandwich generation doesn't really apply in the U.S. and in here again, I can see some of my friends, they really struggle. They even sacrifice the word sacrifice.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Okay, all right. Their life just for sometimes they have a problem, the wife and the mother-in-law. They always crash just because that kind of stuff happen.
The dynamic of who's in charge of the house. Yeah.
That's correct.
Two women cooking
Cannot
in the same kitchen.
Correct.
That's real.
Yes.
And I think
that's real.
I think the whole sandwich generation thing you're talking about could happen here because life expectancy is getting longer, okay? And everything is getting more expensive, So it may be coming, and I think it will be economically motivated as opposed to anything else.
I think that's what it is. We get hit first because we have different you and I stay in different country with the different level. Well, it's nothing bad to say. I just put on the table everything. I think, the economic start that problem.
I've never really thought about it before in this context, but I think the deal is this is the kind of thing that we adapt to it and do it when we have to. When we're forced into it, we adapt. I think that's really how it is.
Okay. So if you are parents, okay.
Kind of weird because oddly I am, but go ahead.
We are parents, okay.
Okay.
And then we probably 80 years old, okay? And what do you expect for the kids?
Well, that's the thing. I mean, today, I don't have those expectations. I mean, because quite honestly, one of my kids could call me and is like, Dad, I've got a problem. I've got to have a set of tires and it's going to cost $1,500. And I don't have that kind of extra money, but I can't go to work without my vehicle. Well, Dad's probably going to buy tires. And I'm not just being mean about this, but I know I've told you this before. Everybody, hey, will you loan me enough money to get tires? Hey, when it's a family, the chance of it being a loan is, I don't know, very small. So, it's like if you can afford to put the set of tires on the car to help the kid out, you're the parent, do it. It's $1,500, okay? It makes their life easier. But
My question was, if we already 80 years old, okay, and do you expect your kids take care of you?
no, I don't have that expectation because
Yes,
I didn't
I think-
grow up expected. I was not the subject of that expectation on the previous generation. And yeah, my mentality is no, I'll be retired and I'll have to take care of myself, and we'll work that out. I don't expect them to take care of me.
We already have our life, and then right now, our responsibility is help them to, they can have their own life, and
Be self-sufficient.
we live with your life, we live with our life, and they live with their life, right?
Right.
But still help
there's
each
really
other. That's
no-
normal, right?
Yeah, there's no expectation of commingling money or this and that, but I'll help them out if they need help.
Okay, I'm agree with that.
Okay, that's wild. We should actually get married if we agree so often on stuff, discipline and money and old people and never mind. I forgot I had the handcuff.
And take off. Okay, put it on.
You take it off for the conversation and then you put it on for show? Oh my gosh!
You need to go, so we talk again later. But this conversation about whatever will go again in the next episode. So,
Okay.
see you.
Have a good one. Bye bye.
Have a good one.